Demings. I've heard a lot today and seen a lot, but there's one thing that I just cannot ignore, and I don't have to. The performance of the gentleman from Louisiana earlier was an embarrassment. And I am hoping that it was not reflective of the caliber of this committee and the very important work that you all have to do between the members and staff moving forward. I just happen to believe that we can, in the interest of the country, be our better selves. I just happen to believe that we can, on this committee, be examples of America's exceptionalism, that example for our children and our grandchildren. And I just happen to believe that we can work to keep our homeland safe all at the same time. Director Wray, in June of 2019 or somewhere around there, you talked about that the FBI had elevated the racially and ethnically motivated violent extremism to your highest level or highest threat priority, on the same level of ISIS and homegrown violent extremists. Is that still the case today? Why or why not?
Yes, Congresswoman, it is still a national threat priority, and that's reflective of the lethality that we saw over the years leading up to that designation and that have, to some extent, continued since then.
And how does the caseload for cases falling into that category look today?
I don't have exact numbers here, but I can tell you that the number of both domestic violent extremism cases in general has been growing over the last 4 or 5 years.
Would you say it's doubled?
It depends on what your starting point is.
Last 5 years.
But before the end of calendar year 20, it had gone up by, say, 50%. And since then, it has gone up yet again quite substantially. And that's domestic violent extremism overall, of which racially and ethnically motivated violent extremism is one part. But I should say that along with racially and ethnically motivated violent extremism, we also saw, starting in 2020 and continuing to the present, a lot of anti-government, anti-authority violent extremism, which includes everything from militia violent extremism to anarchist violent extremism. And while that hasn't resulted in as many lethal attacks, the sheer volume of it caused us to elevate that as well, more recently, also to a national threat priority.
Would you say that that is the result of a lone domestic violent extremist? You talked about the threat of, I used to say the lone wolf. I guess we don't say that anymore. But would you say that the increase that you just talked about is a result of these individual people out there who are influenced by an array of different things?
We are certainly seeing a trend that is magnified online of people using a mix, a hodgepodge of different personal beliefs and ideologies and grievances to as justification for violence. And that is an alarming trend that has continued, again, for the last, let's say, 4 or 5 years. And it's something we have to be concerned about. And certainly the social media dimension is one of the ways in which gasoline is poured on the fire, if you will. But there are a lot of other things that contribute to it.
You've also said that China and Russia have basically piggybacked on the unrest that's here, the division within our country. What did you mean by that? In what ways?
Well, a number of our foreign adversaries, a number of nation states, Russia initially, but since then, not just Russia, but China and Iran as well, have capitalized on the same toxic, politically charged violence that occurs in this country these days to try to pit us against each other, to sow divisiveness, to amplify tensions that are already there and make it worse. And we saw
they
that
must
not
be,
just with Russia.
They must be smiling right now. Let me just end with this. I want to thank all of you for the commitment that you have to protecting our nation. You have tough jobs. Someday I wonder why you've answered the call. But on behalf of this committee, we are sure glad that you did.